to run down my list here, and whoop, Bob Hooper just disappeared. So Sylvia?
He's there. He's on the screen.
No, I know, but his name just disappeared from the list.
Yeah.
Back on again.
Hey, Robert.
Hello, Robert.
Yep. I wanted to say hi to Sylvia and say that I saw your letter to the editor. My cat just.
Cat race ran across in front.
Yeah.
All right, Sylvia?
Sylvia, I'm here.
It's a good letter.
Thank you.
Let's get started, please.
Mr. Clark?
Jeff Clark, Ward 4 Steering Committee.
Martha?
Where's Martha?
Martha Malpas, Ward 7.
See everybody here do the or more
Mary?
do the gallery view. Go up to gallery.
Mary Chapin, Ward 4.
Click it.
Bob
Nope.
Hooper?
It's not doing it.
Put it right on.
Bob
gal-
Hooper,
put it
Ward
right
4.
On the
Okay.
words. On the, no, not there. On the
These
letter.
keep jumping around right now. I've got
You
Carol
go
and
there, that little. There you go. Okay.
Hi.
Matt.
Matt Hurlbert, Ward 4 and 7 and Steering Committee.
Martha Malpas is good.
Okay,
Actually, I live in Ward.
No, we don't have a huge.
Gerhard?
Good evening, everybody. My
Mr.
name is
Menke.
Erhard Montka.
Nope, okay, nothing to say.
One of the candidates
Um,
for Chittenden County Senate. Live in
Right,
Burlington,
thank you.
Ward 1.
Okay, all right. Erica?
Hello, excuse me. My name is Erica Reddick, and I am a resident of Ward 4, and I'm also running for state senate.
She
Yep.
is.
June?
Who is running for Senate?
Hi, I'm June Heston. I live in Richmond, Vermont, and I am running for state senate.
Thank you. Kendra?
Kendra Sowers, Ward 4, also the North District School Commissioner.
Stephen?
Stephen Hamlin, Ward 7.
Let's see.
Oh, Ali?
Yep, Ali Jang, Ward 7.
Thank you.
Oh, he's there. Great. I don't see
Okay,
him.
yeah, he just popped in. So, all right, why don't we go ahead? Well, that's what we, does anybody have any specific announcements they'd
I
like
just
to?
want to say Carol Odie, Ward 4.
Oh, thank you, Carol. Okay. My roster keeps popping, reshuffling based on who shows up when here. Are there any?
Sarah.
Are there any specific announcements before we get started?
Or Carpenter didn't get introduced.
Okay, Sarah Carpenter, Ward 4.
Okay. All right, then why don't we just go ahead and get started with the elected officials segment here and get us going this evening and conserve some time if we can. So Kendra, it looks like you're the only school board person here. So would you mind leading off for us, please?
Happy to do that.
Thanks.
So I think the biggest thing on people's minds right now is what's going to be happening with schools come the fall. So they are going to be open. And we're still figuring out how, but we sent a survey to families and we've got lots of feedback from the survey. We also did 2 town halls where we had literally like hundreds of parents and staff and community members attend. They had lots of feedback, great engagement, and lots of questions. And there has been a reopening task force that has been created. And all of the information about school opening, if anyone asks you, you can go on to the our bsdvt.org website. And in the banner, you can click the task force, and that will take you to its own separate webpage that'll have all the information. It has the task force members, and it's going to have all of the detailed information about school opening. So it's a great resource if people have questions to direct them to. We should be knowing within the next week exactly how we're working the school, whether it's online, in person, or hybrid. So keep your eyes open for that. The summer program is going really well. There's been 184 kids at all different levels that have participated in the summer school. And what has been great about summer school is we got a little taste of what we can expect for the fall. So they've been doing how the social distancing, how the temperature checks works and the health checks. And they started at 5 minutes and now I think they've got it down to like 1 minute per kid. So that has been a great trial before school starts. And the food, we've served over 100,000 meals to children this summer and 20,000 meals for the state's homeless meal program. So it's pretty astounding, and our meals program has done just a fabulous job. So I wanted to give a shout out to that. I was going to introduce Tom Flanagan, but I don't see that he's on the call yet. He has moved to Apple Tree, and his family. I think the move is this week, so that's exciting. I think the move.
He said it was
tomorrow.
today, so he's
Okay.
coming on just for his segment.
Perfect. So
Yeah.
he is coming on, and he's going to talk about his 100-day entry plan, and you're going to learn a lot more from him.
His
That's all I
family's
have.
arriving as we speak.
Great. That's all.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, so I just wanted to reiterate that Superintendent Flanagan is on the agenda for later, and I'm sure he'll have more to say about the reopening plan and the task force. All right, with that, let's go ahead and move into our city council segment. And I guess, Sarah, are you prepared to lead off?
Sure. I haven't had a chance to talk to Ali or Franklin, so I'll just bully on and they can pick up what I miss. Really,
All right.
we just had one meeting since our last.
I can't. I've got to find my speech.
Oh.
I don't know where the fuck it went.
Since our last NPA meeting. The biggest piece of that really was the passage of the city budget. And I know there was a lot of tension around that, but I think that the thing that I want to point out about that, that we need to understand that we were able to pass that budget with an $8.5 million deficit, covering a big chunk of that from our unassigned fund balance. So we were really in a good place to be able to accommodate part of that. We were able to defer some of our
Excuse me, Jeff, would you put out a warning? People have to mute. There's some background vocabulary
It's
that's not
Jean
okay.
O'Sullivan.
There we go. So we were able to defer tax increases, and kind of on top of that, we're able actually to defer some of your payments. So you should be looking out for that, both in that happened in June, and it will happen again in our August payment. And that took a lot of energy and support from the council to get that done. We've been able to accomplish that with primarily no permanent layoffs. So I think that's good news for the staff who've been really working terribly hard in this thing. And we've been able to accommodate most of our programs. There are cutbacks because we still have a significant deficit. So we've had to ratchet back all throughout the city budget to try to keep us in a reasonable place. And so I commend everyone for working really, really hard on that. There's probably a ton of questions about the budget, but I don't know that we can, I'll have time tonight. You all probably have seen the news today about the default of the developer at City Place. I don't have a lot to add. I think that's probably a next month's meeting because there's significant legal entanglement of that. And the bottom line is it's going to take a lot of legal masterminding to figure that one out. The other thing I think you all saw that was the city council, not myself, but others decided to try to put the ranked choice voting on the November ballot, and that appears like that's going to happen. trying to think, Ali and Franco can jump in. There's been a lot that's happened in the month, although it now will slow down for another month because we have a break coming up. And happy to answer questions.
Okay, thank you. So let's go ahead and move on to Ali. And then if folks do have questions, it looks like we're gonna have a little surplus time in this segment. So please use your raise the hand function and we can have some conversation. So Ali?
Thank you, Mr. Jeff. Yes, and again, the steering committee, thank you so much for all that you guys do all the time, trying to bring us together. And we know how challenging it is, but you always make the sacrifice in making it happen. Thank you. Based on the voting, ranked choice voting, it's now on the ballot, and I believe that it will be the choices now of the residents. And as elected officials, all we need to do is basically to give them the right information, what it is exactly. And that's what I personally will be working on, in making sure people understand definitely what they will be voting on. And I was proud to vote in support of having it on the ballot. Now, educating the people to make their own decisions. And whatever they choose for people of Ward 7, knowing that it was voted down 10 years ago, things have changed, times have changed. Why not revisit this issue? And talking about voting, on August 11, it will not take place at the Miller Center for those who live in Ward 7, but it will be at C.P. Smith Elementary School. From 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., you can vote in person. And as you all know, the Secretary of State made a statement that basically the request for voting from home or online voting has already exceeded the number of the number of people that voted last time for statewide election, which is great. The turnout will be amazing, and I think it's amazing for us to have a ballot item as a city in that election coming up. And I think the North Albany cones has also been a hot topic lately, and I think people need to understand that this is just temporary. But in between, I think there has been, we need to revisit the issue itself. I think there are so many cones, and today I experienced where it was not an ambulance, but it was just a car that has the power to just have lights, and people will stay away from the avenue to let that person pass. And it was a little bit challenging. I think the number of cones we have need to be revisited a little bit. But thank you to all those that have been part of the process. And as you know, in terms of Black Lives Matter, the demands, in terms of, there has been so many efforts, raising the flag, putting the Black Lives Matter mural on Main Street. It was well attended. I know Hooper was there. Who else here? I remember Carol Odie was there. It was just amazing. It's just great. And for me, it was all remembrance and thanking John Lewis for his outstanding efforts and service to the country, fighting for what is right. Definitely. And definitely, I think also as a council and as a city, we have to take it easy. We have to reflect. We have to make sure that we understand what we are voting on. Personally, I believe we made a big mistake allowing the reduction of the police department through attrition by 30%, not having a time certain, right? Not having a process. I think we made a huge mistake. And now even former elected officials are circling back to remind us of our decision. We gotta be very careful on things. This is not about the demand, but this is about our public safety as a community, as a city, as a municipality. We have to definitely pay particular attention to what we're doing, and it's a consequence to the future of our city. I'll leave it to that, and thank you. And I think Gene O'Sullivan, Representative Gene O'Sullivan, is also working with leaders of the New American community. I'm just allowing her the space to talk about this. Yes, thank you so much, everyone.
Oh, okay, Ali, can I get some clarification on what it is you're asking Jean to speak about?
I think she would know, but it is about the minority funds that the state have received. But she knows. She will talk about it. And this is just new. And yes, she will join the New American Advisory Council to talk about this with us on Friday and also Sunday. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so continuing with our elected officials segment, I see that Monica has joined the meeting. So hi, Monica. So I'd like to circle back and give you an opportunity to speak, please. So I don't know, can you hit your unmute?
Yep.
Okay, I got you, thanks.
I'm not too much new, except for, of course, our new superintendent. And I've been gone on vacation. But during that time, the city declared racism as a public health emergency. And the school district has joined that effort. And we've declared several things that we will do to kind of, go in line with this public health emergency. And I just wanted to mention a few. Some of you might have read about this. Perhaps it was posted on Front Porch Forum. But number one, we will fully implement restorative practices in all schools to create a more equitable behavioral response system to reduce suspensions and punitive disciplinary action. And I've been already talking about this at NPA meetings. Actually, the school district has been implementing restorative practices for at least the last 3 or 4 years. But, we're going stepwise through this. The next thing that we're going to do is review our curricular materials and develop a plan to ensure our curriculum so that it's culturally relevant, anti-racist, and holds high expectations for what all students know and are able to do. Number 3, we will create space for student and family voice in youth and parent-led conversations about race and equity in our community. And then number 4, we will implement a year-long race and equity training series for schools and district leaders this school year, so the 2021 school year. And last but not least, we will create a resolution to raise the Black Lives Matter flag at each school. I think currently, at least I know at the high school, it goes up during Black History Month, which is February, and stays up for the rest of the school year. But a lot of us would like that flag to be flown the entire school year. So that's my update.
Okay. Excuse me.
And I'm open to questions.
Okay, so for the material that we've covered so far, or any of the, are there any questions for our presenters thus far? Okay, Erica?
Thank you for calling on me, Jeff. I really appreciate it. I am deeply concerned about the direction I see our elected officials going. And I guess this is to the city council and to the legislators. Given that Gene O'Sullivan and her competitor, as an example, are proponents of being able to override separation of powers and allowing for a minority to tyrannize the majority, which separation of powers was put in place to protect. And now you're supporting ranked choice voting, which, as you see in many places like California, turns places into a one-party system. I'm just really curious why our current elected officials are working so hard to keep people out of the process, to be able to pass laws against the will of the people. I would especially love to hear from Bob Hooper on this and Sarah Carpenter, as they represent me.
Before we get into that discussion, can you please elaborate on how you see ranked choice voting creating voter alienation or suppression, please? I'm not understanding that.
For sure. And Carol Odie as well. I'm sorry, I didn't see you immediately on the screen. What ranked choice voting generally creates is a one-party system. So as an example, when I lived in Los Angeles, I never had an opportunity to vote for a Republican because there were so many people and because there was so much effort to keep conservatives out of the conversation. It was literally only Democrats and progressives that I got to choose from. So there was literally no one who represented me on the ballot. And that is what happens with ranked choice voting. Instead of having the best of one party or the best of each kind of ideology to choose from, you only get one to choose from. And I have a real problem with that, especially when our elected officials are praising the fact that they are overcoming separation of powers and able to pass legislation regardless of a governor's veto, who's elected by the entire state, not just Chittenden.
Okay. All right, let's give folks a chance to respond to that, and also realizing that even though that ranked choice voting might be on the November ballot, it still requires approval by the legislature when they reconvene in 2021. So I guess because this conversation started at the city council level, I guess I'd like to give the city councilors an opportunity to respond first, and then how about we move on the conversation to the legislative folks. So Sarah and Ali, do you want to take this on, please?
Well, let me say, I did not support putting it on this November ballot because I do not think we've had the time to discuss it. And there's a lot behind it. There's versions of ranked choice voting. There's different ways different jurisdictions use it. It is used a lot, and it's well used. I think we were premature in rushing to put it on the ballot. I would ask that this NPA pick between now and November a goodly amount of time to discuss it, like a good hour. Let's devote one of our whole meetings to it, because I think it needs that kind of attention to understand how it works, what's involved with it. One comment I want to make, and one of the reasons I wanted to wait on the discussion is many of the jurisdictions that use it have non-partisan municipal elections, just like we do with the school board. And I think that's worthy of consideration, both the city council level and the mayoral level. Perhaps we want to look at non-partisan elections. Many of our municipal votes really aren't partisan. So I think we really need to spend the time to examine the right choice for us.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Ali?
Yes, thank you. And I think that's a great question, actually. And again, this is not something a decision that the council has done. The council only decided to put it on the ballot for people to express their feeling about this specific issue, right? And I was proud to ask. This was the only way to asking people about what they think, because we tend to take a decision or make a decision on behalf of the people that we represent. But this is an opportunity for people to have a say And it is not something new. It was here before, it was voted down under a different name, but it is exactly the same exact ballot item. I understand the concerns as to why we need $50,000 to put it on the ballot. Voting system have changed. People will be sending the ballot in their home mails, you know, and it will cost money. I also understand the concern about why not wait until March town meeting day to do so, right? But at the same time, every day, every time when people are against a specific issue, they will always find a way to say these are the reason as to why we voted no. I was proud to vote in favor of it, and I will continue to talk to my constituents in Ward 7 so that they understand what they're voting for, exactly what it is about, and let them make the decision, right? So that's where I am with this issue. And I don't think it will be becoming a one-party decision. No. I mean, I think people are smart here. They voted it down, and I will not be here to just say, oh, vote in favor of it or vote in support of it. No, I am neutral. It's on the ballot, and I'll allow just my constituent to vote on it. That's my stand on this issue.
Okay, thank you. So Sarah, I really like your suggestion of the steering committee taking that up as an agenda topic. So so that I think we will most certainly do. So so we have a few more minutes before Superintendent Flanagan is on deck. So I guess I'd like to give our legislative reps a chance to weigh in on this. So between Bob, Carol, and Jean, how do you want to handle this?
I'm happy to answer.
Okay, thank you.
Well, what I want to say to Erica Reddick is that what I recall when we had some kind of, I don't know what to call it, ranked choice voting in the past, I remember that I went to forums to hear from a progressive who was running, Bob Kiss, a Republican running, Kurt Wright, an independent running, Dan Smith, and a Democrat running, Andy Montrol. I recall that that there was displeasure in the end with the system, and people voted not to continue it. I don't know what it is that's being put on the ballot here. My impression, if you asked me about the last system that we had, I am not in favor of bringing that back, but I am definitely open to learning about what's on the ballot for November, and learning more.
Bob, I know that you are on Government Operations Committee, and would this charter change land in your committee?
Bob, you need to unmute.
Didn't unmute. Yeah, most assuredly it would. All charter changes start in GovOps before they go over to any other committee or the full floor. I'm sort of on the same boat with Carol on a lot of these points. I mean, what Erica said about only being able to vote for a particular party, that's the whole deal with majority rules, one, and two, it's completely false because candidates get through the first door of this and then the ranked choice thing kicks in. I'm a little disappointed that what came out as a proposal was the same thing that we basically voted down once before. There are opportunities, I think, to hone this system so that it is better and has less opportunity to produce a questionable result. I mean, if you remember the last time one candidate said, I won, and the reality was that they were the candidate that lost in the first round. So, you know, that there's bugs in this system that should be worked out. And I would hope that a lot more thought is given to it, the same way Sarah is advocating. It's a good thing. I mean, bottom line, it saves money if there's several parties or people running. There are a lot of opportunities for this to be positive. I signed on to a letter in December that said I support it. I was disappointed at what came forward. It's the same thing that had been voted out, 8 years or so ago, maybe more now, time flies. So yeah, if it makes it past the citizens of Burlington now, my tendency will be to vote for what the citizens of Burlington have said they want to do. That's kind of my job as representing the voices here. And I'll entertain any questions.
Okay. Jean, do you, I see your hand, Ali, but I got to give Jean a chance too, please.
Oh, thank you so much. I'd like to agree with both with what Bob said and Carol, and I'd like to focus on what Sarah said. Looking at this as looking at our local races as nonpartisan, like we do with the school board, this kind of ranked choice voting would work very well. I also see Robert Bristow Johnson on the call, and Robert has some really interesting ideas about how we can make this work better. The citizens of Burlington rejected this once because they didn't feel the outcome reflected what they were voting for. I would support what Sarah is saying, is that the NPA steering committee, we should really spend some time discussing this and refining it. And yes, the legislature has final oversight on this. And it is a movement, California has an open primary law. Maine has ranked choice voting. It brings people into the system, and to have everyone come out and participate is always my goal. I'd like to have a better conversation. I supported putting it on the ballot because I want to hear what the people want. I think they may want the generic ranked choice voting. Sorry. So, and again, I apologize. My opening line, I will now mute myself because I have barking dogs, but I will be back with you on the rest of the discussion. Hold on one sec.
Thank you.
So you can go on, Jeff, and I'll get back.
Ali, you got a minute.
I think I will just simply pass because I was strongly considering to run for state legislator, because I don't think you cannot have speak about what you think of an issue, and that issue is not on the ballot, and saying you're going to represent us. You can speak as a constituent, as a person who live in Ward 4 or Ward 7, but you cannot speak as to how you will vote when this is passed by the citizen of Burlington. I just want to reiterate again, the response from Gino Sullivan is excellent. If people voted to support it, then she will support that aspect. But let's be extra careful on things that we say. And this is, again, making me consider run for state legislature. You cannot represent me like this. Thank you.
Okay, well, that's an interesting thought for you, Ali, but I think you missed the boat. You missed your turn this time. Okay, with that, I see that our new superintendent, Mr. Flanagan, is with us, and so I'd like to just open the floor and let you go right ahead. Tom?
Great, thank you.
Excuse me, before Tom starts, will everybody mute themselves, please? Thanks.
And you may get a little background noise from me. I'm at home, and it's the first night that my family's here. So they, yeah. You guys want to? No, they ran when they heard that. Anyway, so they drove up today, and we're excited to be here. We are in Ward 4. There's Amy.
Hi.
Saying hi.
Well, welcome to everybody.
Welcome.
Kids scattered.
Kids scattered.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're in the new North End. We're excited. The kids are coming up. Excited to go to school in the fall at Flynn. We have twin 7-year-olds who will be going to Flynn and an 11-year-old going to Hunt, and just so excited to be here. So I thought I could talk a little bit about the 100-day plan and some of the priorities from the 100-day plan, and then to get into some of the school reopening. I know that's top of mind for people. And so I want to make sure that I'm able to explain what is happening with our plans for reopening. So the first is that the 100-day plan is designed to set out the priorities that I had coming to Burlington. And those priorities are based on a series of listening and learning and listening engagements, a learning and listening tour, where I think some priorities, and it's one of the things that I really liked about Burlington, is that the priorities that I have for education seem to really match with the priorities for Burlington, from what I was reading before I applied and from what I saw when I got here and started talking to people more. So I'm just thrilled for the opportunity, honored to be chosen. I see Commissioner Sowers and Commissioner Ivanchich on the phone, and thanks for their support as I've been coming up to Burlington and getting on board. So the 100-day plan will outlines the key activities that I hope to accomplish in the first 100 days, ending on October 9th. I was planning knowing that we were in COVID and knowing that school reopening could look different, but also wanting to make sure that I was clear in my priorities coming in. And so those priorities, and also clear in my commitment to the community about the things that I wanted to do when I came in. And so the priorities are: number 1, equity; number 2, engagement; and number 3, deep learning. So I've spent a lot of time in the past few months, really since April, talking with people from Burlington. I've talked to over 60, 70 people at this point, individually, one-on-one conversations, and now have had the opportunity to meet with a couple of faculty, a couple of big town halls, and really, I believe it's really important to build relationships and to get to know people, and to learn about the context and learn about what matters to people before making major decisions, and to inform major decisions. And so my big work has been about engagement, about making sure that we are sending out a survey to ask people's thoughts about coming back to school, holding town halls, following up on that with smaller individual meetings with people to hear, like NPAs or meetings with faculty, to hear your thoughts. The number 1 priority for us as a district outside of the 100-day plan, obviously, is a safe reopening of schools. So I'll get to that after I talk about the other 2 priorities. So the first one is engagement. The second one is around equity. So this really wraps around everything that we do, and connects deep learning with engagement and with student performance, and student well-being and physical and mental health. And then deep learning, I taught for 10 years, and I had the opportunity to teach with my first year as a teacher's assistant. I had the opportunity to teach with a master teacher who was all about place-based learning and experiential learning. And so that really, and she ended up being my mentor, and set the foundation for me for what good teaching and good learning experiences look like. And I believe those learning experiences are really powerful when students are connected to their learning, when they have voice and choice in what they're learning, and when it's rigorous. I think sometimes we lower expectations, particularly for students of color and students who have been historically marginalized. And I don't think that's the right thing to do. I think that perpetuates low expectations and perpetuates an opportunity gap. I believe that we should have high expectations for all students, and we have to build that. We have to do that with our students, with our families, with our community. So those are kind of the 3 big areas those are the 3 big priorities of the of the 100-day entry plan. And I can send that around too if you haven't seen it. It's posted on the online. And there are a number of activities related to that 100-day entry plan. And then the idea is that at the end of that time, I will present a report to the school board about what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, and what we've accomplished in the first 100 days. And that will lead into a strategic planning process. So the strategic plan is in its 5th year. It's a 5-year strategic plan, and it's in its last 5 years. So the idea is that 100-day entry plan then leads into a strategic planning process that engages the community in that work. So I know. In addition to that, what's on everyone's mind is reopening. How are we going to ensure that we are safely reopening schools? That is absolutely our #1 priority. It's the thing that I'm spending 95% of my time on, and it is the thing that I am most focused on, and my team is most focused on, and has been since about April or May. The team has we have a task force with work groups who are really digging into the specifics of what it will mean to open. And we're basing our decision about how to reopen on the guidance that comes from the Agency of Education. And the Agency of Education has been working with the Vermont Department of Health. And so the Agency of Education tells us that we need to start in step 2. And step 2 requires a 6-foot, or recommends a 6-foot distance. So there is physical distancing among students. It says that is to do that whenever you can, and that schools can need to do the best they can. So it leaves a little window, but we didn't feel like, we felt like we needed to be able to set up the classroom so that we created as much as possible a 6-foot distance between students. Otherwise, I think we would have been contradicting the guidance of the agency. And the regional superintendents will all be making an announcement in the next couple of days about their plans, and we are all aligned in our plans around starting in a hybrid alternating day sort of opening. The goal is so the 6-foot distancing is one of them. Health checks and health screenings before students come to school or upon entry, and masks are 3 of the big pieces that we are working on and that we need to follow in that guidance. It's a really complex, difficult decision with no great answers, no perfect answers, I don't think. But I also think there could be opportunities for us to learn about how to engage students outside of the classroom, how to think differently about the types of assignments that we give that allow students the opportunity to collaborate outside of classroom spaces to keep them engaged when they're not in the school building. But many, many, many things to also plan for, to make sure that we are supporting our teachers who have young children, our families who need to work and need us. All of our families need us, but some are need us a little bit more in terms of how we are able to provide support for their kids during the work week. And so right now we are moving toward a hybrid alternating day school opening, which is something that I talked about in the town halls. And that means essentially about half of the students will be in school each day. The other half will be distance learning. And so that could look different. That could look different in different scenarios. But we want to make sure that learning is deep, it's meaningful, it's rigorous, and whether that is happening in school or at home. So that's where we are now. Again, planning to make a formal announcement by the end of the week, and that will line up with the other regional districts around us. So, questions, thoughts?
Yes, very, very, very good. We have a good 10 minutes or so left. So if folks would like to use the raise their hand function, or wave at me frantically on their computer screen, then we'll start with Robert.
All right. All right. So I'm there. So Tom, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm going to say something kind of politically incorrect, but it's true. You're going to be picking up some shambles left by your predecessor. And that includes some people, that includes some personnel decisions, especially with the guidance department. Maybe some principals too. I think that's going to be the main thing you're going to be facing. That and COVID and trying to run a school with a pandemic going on.
Should be a question, Robert.
Okay, I just wanted to say something. I didn't know that I was supposed to be a question.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, I'll take comments too. You know, if there's a question you want me to address there, I'm happy to. I think it is going to be a challenge, and I think in those conversations, Robert, I do appreciate the comment, because in the conversations that I've had with lots and lots of people coming as I was planning to come in and move up to Burlington, I did ask people what the strengths of the district were, what the needed improvements were, and what the opportunities were. And actually, I heard from people that the staff, particularly staff at schools, teachers, paraeducators, service providers, that we have really committed and strong staff, a really engaged community that gets behind schools and wants to support the schools. And I've actually seen that. I've had some meetings already with faculty. I met with CP Smith faculty this morning, and people are really positive. And I know it's stressful, but I do think we have a lot of strong individuals, right? But what I heard from people was that they didn't feel that there was enough of a team, and that people didn't feel like they were always working together. Within schools they might, but not across the district and not with central office necessarily. So that's something that I'm really pushing with the central office team. I've created a cabinet that now includes the principals, so that they're a part of my cabinet, which I think is really important for to kind of spread the decision making, spread out the core group that is making key decisions on behalf of the district. And so that's something that I've done. I believe in supporting people first, always. I think that people can grow and learn and improve. But I do know we have to build systems, we have to build team, and I need to push, and I'm pushing.
Thank you. I see a hand from Franklin Polino. Question. Franklin?
Let's assume that I'm a child and I have to go to school. Can you tell me what my day will look like, you know, from the second PPE wise, safety precautionary measures, and, you know, masks are on a shortage for many families now. You know, a child can go through, lose it. You know, can you just tell me what school will look like for a child going to school when school reopens?
Yeah, I can. And I think actually we're fortunate because we were running summer programs at 4 of our different schools. So I've actually been able to see what school looks like for students in these times. And we've actually been running really pretty successful, I think, summer programming during this time. So what it will start with is a health screening where there are a couple of questions that students or parents need to answer with students. That will likely either be able to be done at home or at school. There's a temperature, a touchless thermometer, and so that really gets you entrance into school. And what I'm seeing at our summer programs, and what I'm sure we'll see in the school year, is that it took a long time it took about 4 or 5 minutes per student in the beginning of summer, and now it's down to 1 minute. And I think if also some students and families are doing this at home, with groups of 12 coming in the building, that won't take more than 5 or 6 minutes. Is my goal. So students come into the building as normal, and then they go to their classrooms. And the majority, it almost becomes, particularly in elementary school, like a one-room schoolhouse. where you have a teacher and a paraprofessional, or a teacher and a general ed and a special education teacher, or what we're trying to do is get 2 adults in classrooms as much as we can. And so what I've seen in summer are actually warm, welcoming, happy learning environments. Students are wearing a mask, so they would, and teachers are wearing masks. So when you go in now, today, you would have seen them in masks. I'm wearing a mask. We are keeping, desks are separated so that students can sit at desks when they're seated and are 6 feet apart, or as close to 6 feet apart as possible. But there can be movement around the classroom too. I don't think it's healthy to keep students in their seats all day. That's not what we want to do. And there will be a few enough students, I believe, in the classrooms that will be achievable. We're going to promote outdoor learning spaces. So we're likely going to be bringing some tents, a couple tents at least, to each school. So maybe as a teacher who would have reserved the library, may reserve the tent to have outdoor learning, because we know transmission is much less likely outdoors. That may give students also an opportunity to take the mask off for a few moments. But what we're seeing is, students don't love the masks. I'll be totally honest. They're not saying they love them. And it's warm. And so, there is some frustration around the masks, but they are wearing them and teachers are talking to them about them. And so I would imagine that those types of things will happen. And then there's going to be learning. Students are going to be, working together, working with their teacher, completing meaningful, rigorous learning tasks. And lunch will be in the classroom, because we are not allowed to use the cafeterias, and we can't congregate in those large spaces. And then special. So one of the interesting things that I'm seeing in summer school, and I think we'll see this with our unified arts teachers, is that teachers who move across different groups, because one of the ideas is to, as much as possible, try to keep groups of students together. And so what we're seeing in summer school is related service providers, speech and language pathologists, and folks who are directly supporting school individual students are Zooming in and providing services over Zoom. So I think that's an option where you could see individual students working with individual adults. You could see art teachers who are actually in the building, Zooming into a class and leading a class virtually from within the building, because they may be working with one pod that week and they stay with that group that week. So sorry, I've talked a lot, but I think it's a really good question, the day in the life. And that's the first time I've actually been asked that question, Franklin. So I appreciate it, because it kind of helps me think it through as well. It's really hard for principals. They're going to have to plan every second, and teachers too, but I'm thinking about the planning of getting ready and getting in. They have to plan every single second, and it's planned differently than it would have been under normal circumstances. Our goal is to get back into school full time, and to Vermont's done a really good job. I think one of the things to think about, I see you, TJ, I'll get right there, is that we're focusing on the national, we're hearing the national narrative. It's running in our heads, right? And the national narrative around coming back to school is really politicized and really scary in many parts of the country. I do really strongly believe Vermont is in a different place in its readiness to come back to school, more like Finland, Denmark, than Texas and California. However, it is still a challenge. So that's my long answer. Thanks for the question, Franklin. TJ.
Thank you. I see there are a couple of other hands up, but superintendent's time is up. So what I would like to offer is that, so the folks who are still interested in submitting a question, if you would email those to the steering committee, we will forward those to the superintendent to facilitate that conversation. But in terms of time diligence, we're going to move on to the candidates forum. And before we do, Superintendent Flanagan, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff, real quick on the follow-up, we also, I don't know if this is true for anybody, but we got thousands of questions at our town halls that we are working through now. So we are going to be creating an FAQ and answering individual questions. And we're doing that now, but we also, we're trying to get through them, to be honest. So we'll be answering questions. You can feel free to reach out to me. My email is tflanagan, TFLANAGAN @bsdvt.org. I'm getting a lot of emails, so maybe a little delay getting back to you, but I'm available to you. I'm accessible. So feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to.
And I'm quite confident that those FAQ documents will be available on the district website, I suspect.
Yes, they will be. Yes.
Okay. That's another place I would suggest folks look. Thanks again. And again, welcome to the hood.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's good to be here.
Okay, with that, it is now time for the candidate forum. And I see that all 4 of our House representatives are on board. So I think we're going to go ahead and start with 6-1 and then 6-2. And this is the section of our meeting where Mr. Clark is going to be our diligent timekeeper. Are you? And we're shooting for 3 minutes apiece, Jeff?
Yes. So I will give you a nudge when there's 30 seconds left. So 2 minutes and 30 seconds in, I'll say you have 30 seconds left.
Okay, so we'll start with 6-1, which is Bob Hooper and Carol Odie, and then we will move on to 6-2, which is Emma Mulvaney Stanek and Gino Sullivan. So, Mr. Hooper, we're going to start with you.
Diligently following the rules and muting myself. I don't unfollow. Anyway, I'm Bob Hooper. I'm the current state rep. I'm running again. I would appreciate your support. In terms of a brief synopsis of what's been going on, as many people know, we've given away a lot of money. I suspect Gene and Carol will elaborate more on that because their committees have done a lot of that. I point out that a lot of us, all 3 of us, volunteered to help with the unemployment compensation thing. Some of the people in our neighborhoods were benefits of that. Sitting on government operations, I was involved with the mail-in ballot discussion, sitting on racial justice and appropriate police action bills that came out. I'm active in social equity and the climate caucus. I don't want to take a lot of time with this because I'm pretty active on Front Porch Forum, asking you all questions and getting your input back. And I'd really like to thank you for responding to that. It keeps me busy. Current question that's out in the field is, what do you think about what's going to happen when UVM and our local colleges reactivate themselves? It seems to be a pretty big concern for people in the neighborhoods. I'll throw up a little warning here that we're at the end of the your car needs inspected, your license needs to be renewed period of grace that we got from the COVID extension. So don't get caught with your sticker the wrong color. It was mentioned before that we were at the Black Lives Matter street painting. It was really hot. It was a lot of fun. It was good community involvement. I met John Lewis in 2012 at the Democratic Convention. Ran into him in the bathroom of all places, and then spent about 20 minutes talking to him outside. He was a genuine guy. It is a loss to our nation. We need 5,000 more people with the strength of character that John Lewis brought forward. In closing, entertain questions, but send a check to Tom at the Food Pantry and consider joining the Elks, both very good neighborhood organizations. Thank you.
Well done. Thank you, Bob. Carol.
Hi, my name is Carol Odie, and in 1987, my husband Paul and I moved here to the New North End, and we raised our 4 children here, and they went to Flynn, Hunt, and BHS, and they all live in the area now. I've spent many years in public service on the school board in the decade of the 1990s, and on the State Board of Education as Howard Dean appointee. And now I've served 2 terms in the State House as one of the state representatives in the New North End. I want to help Vermont economy and its people recover from COVID-19, the COVID-19 global pandemic. It's the worst economy we've had since the Great Depression and the first global pandemic in 100 years. I have the experience to help Vermont and Vermonters through this difficult time. Moving forward, I'd like to continue to work to build an economy that works for all Vermonters with jobs that pay so that our children and grandchildren can live and work in Vermont, and so that they and we can all afford housing, healthcare, childcare, and the repayment of student loans. Our economy can't run, our state can't attract and retain young families without quality childcare, and I'll continue to fight for that. Affordability is key. I'll continue to support efforts to help people rise out of poverty, in part by building a path from schools to jobs, and will help Vermonters save money and fight climate change at the same time by, for example, continuing to help working Vermonters and senior citizens weatherize their homes. Weatherizing can't be outsourced, and this work means Vermont jobs. I want to continue to protect and preserve Vermont's environment. It's all about our quality of life, our health, our tourist economy that brings millions upon millions to our state, and clean water in our lake. And central to that is the extra $32 million in funding that we brought to this to Lake Champlain cleanup over the last 2 years. And all this has to happen in a just and equal society where we fight to end racism and make our nation even stronger. Whether in the past volunteering in our Burlington schools and on the PTO, serving the city on the waterfront board or the community development block grant team, on the board of the Lund Family Center, on the United Way allocations team, as a former Vermont school teacher, and as a lawyer elected by my fellow lawyers in Chittenden County to serve on the Bar Foundation board, where I helped raise money for the Vermont Poverty Law Fellowship and for Vermont Legal Aid.
30
or
seconds,
currently
Carol.
on the Stern Center board or as a legislative trustee at UVM. My goal is to serve Vermont and Vermonters, and always has been. And just to clarify an answer that I gave earlier, I thought that Erica Reddick was asking what I personally thought about the voter runoff. And I personally just don't know about this particular iteration that's going to possibly be on the ballot in November. And I of course will respect the vote and the Burlingtonians. I was just answering personally that I don't know enough about it to respond. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Okay, I see Emma, you're up next on the alphabetical list, so take it away.
That's the first time with an M that anyone's ever said that to me. So thank you all for allowing me to be part of this forum tonight. I'm Emma Mulvaney-Stanek. I live over on Front Street near Battery Park in the Old North End, because Chittenden 6-2 is actually half of the Old North End and half of the southern tier of the New North End. I'm a former city councilor in Burlington. I was elected twice to represent both sides of the Old North End. And I've spent most of my professional career fighting for economic justice as a labor organizer and as a director of the Vermont Livable Wage Campaign, where I worked on increasing the state minimum wage and working to get a cost of living adjustment, one of the first in the country at the time, attached to the minimum wage. I'm running because I'm an organizer, I'm an activist, and now I'm a mom of 2 young kids. And there's an urgency I feel, I felt it for a while before COVID, around the need to have that perspective in the State House. It's underrepresented. And I think in even 10 years, I'm going to have a different sense of urgency when it comes to issues like childcare and paid family leave, and the issues that are facing young families in Vermont, not just in Burlington. And so I have a passion to really help not only voters, frankly, in Chittenden 6-2, but around the state, really have the supports we started exploring during COVID for childcare, around adequate subsidies and support for these for these childcare workers and for their families, and also around real, meaningful paid family leave. I run my own business now as a consultant, and I had a child who will turn 1 on August 11th, ironically enough. That's primary day, so don't tell him that I'm going to miss part of his birthday. But I could not really access any paid family leave support as a self-employed person. And the bill that went through the State House and was vetoed eventually by Governor Scott would have done next to nothing to support a family like mine. And so I think we can do better. We have workers who are working in drastically different ways in the modern economy today in Vermont, and we have to find better ways to support them, both through what we've learned through COVID around creative ways to provide social safety nets like unemployment when things go wrong, but also in these things that really drive our economy. Paid family leave and childcare help the economy work. The three things I'll just leave you with that are sort of core to my platform and why I'm running are probably no surprise: economic justice and workers' rights, so that folks have economic dignity in the state, both when they're working and when they retire. That includes food security. I've heard that from both Old North End and New North End folks. Thank you. That food security continues during COVID, and we have to do more to acknowledge people need help, meeting their own basic needs today. And equitable schools and progressive funding solutions around education. It's another area where I think we can do more to modernize what we've done already in Vermont to make sure people can afford their taxes and to find a more progressive solution. The UVM weighted per pupil weighted study, I think, gives us a roadmap towards that to make sure that we're putting money and redistributing it back to Vermont communities based on modern day needs of poverty and modern day needs of kids who are in today's school system. So I'll stop there so I don't run on, but thank you again for this opportunity.
You're welcome, and thank you. Okay, next is Jeannie O'Sullivan.
Well, thank you so much. One, I have to apologize for my opening lines, which several people heard. The computer literally ate my opening speech, so I'm just going to wing the whole thing. I am Jeannie O'Sullivan. I have served for 5 terms as a state representative representing you, and prior to that, 3 terms as a city councilor. It has been an honor to serve. I wake up every morning in a cold sweat about what's going to happen with our economy. I am vice chair of House Commerce. All of the economic development bills came through my committee. Because I spent 20 years as financial analyst with capital markets, and prior to that, 11 years owning small retail businesses. Because I was a single mom, and retail afforded me the ability to not to do childcare. I did babysitters. I never slept during that time, but at least I could volunteer at CP Smith and at Hunt at BHS where my kids went. And I didn't have latchkey kids, but they had a lot of babysitters. I took my experience and I applied it to what we're looking at right now in COVID-19. That experience helped me write the bill that's the workers' compensation COVID-19 coverage. What that did was fundamentally turn on its ear how we deal with workers' comp. So when our cashiers at Hannaford's or Bessery's or any quick stop, if they get COVID-19 prior to my bill, they would have to prove that they got it at work. This way, the presumption is they got it at work, and the only way the company can say no is to prove they actually got COVID-19 somewhere else, or that they were following to a T what the Agency for Commerce and the Health Department is telling them to do to keep a safe workplace. So we've ensured a safe workplace. Because I was a small women-owned business, that's why I created the $5 million set aside for minority-owned and women-owned businesses, and with a specific eye toward the new American businesses. These are the businesses that will get overwhelmed in the grant and loan program, and did get overwhelmed in the first couple of rounds.
30
I
seconds.
made sure there was a $5 million set aside for them. I worked very hard for that. That's important. I also made sure that we'd $5 million to create a new statewide network of farmers feeding families like what they did at Skinny Pancake. So what that means is all of those food farm to table networks that we've been building for years in the legislature were withering on the vine because there was no restaurants, there were no schools. So now we go to those networks, we buy that food, they go to local restaurants, they create meals, and they go to the food insecure folks. 70,000 Vermonters applied for unemployment. We are facing a recession, a dynamic crisis that is bigger than the Depression. So as I said, I wake up every morning with a cold sweat. But what I do know is The Depression brought us minimum wage and Social Security. More change will come. A meaningful family leave will come. Affordable and accessible childcare will come out of this. Out of these ashes will come some of the best economic development programs that will help all Vermont workers and Vermont businesses. We need to go back and help small entrepreneurs. We need to do this work. I need your support to go back and do it. I think that what I bring to the table as vice chair of House Commerce is an ability to craft programs that's going to help Vermonters, and particularly my district, which is the best district in the state. We are a cross section. We're the old and new North End. We are everyone from renters to homeowners.
Jean,
We
thank you.
embody what Vermont should be. I need your support to continue. Thank you.
You. Good job, Mr. Clark. You're keeping us diligent. Okay, so at this point, I want to thank our four House candidates for their thoughts, and we're ready to move into the long list of Chittenden County Senate candidates. So I've been keeping track of folks as they've been signing in, and it looks like we're up to about 10. So I think the best way to do this is I'm just going to stick with the alphabetical order. And so, Phil, if you would like to begin, I'd appreciate it.
Bill, before you get started too, I'll just remind everyone that you have 3 minutes, and I'm gonna chime in at 2 minutes and 30 seconds, saying you have 30 seconds left. Okay.
And
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Linda, and watching the wait room. People are still coming in, so I think, yes, even though we don't have all 19, they're coming in at a regular clip here. So every 3 minutes would be a good limit on people.
Okay, thanks for having me, everybody. Good to see you all. I live currently in Ward 4 and have for about the last 20 years. And I represented Ward 4 as a school commissioner for 4 years. And then when I went to the Senate, I became the only senator from the New North End. And I've been proud to try to speak what my neighbors say to me into the State House, and then try to take what we do in the State House and bring it back and explain what we've done. So the pandemic has controlled everyone for the last 4.5 months. That's mostly what I'm bringing back now, is what I've done over the last 4 months to work with the administration, who are really in the driver's seat during this sort of emergency, but to work with them to provide oversight on what they're doing and to try to think about the needs of the state, but also my particular community. So I want to mention one thing that we did, just to give you an example. I chaired the Senate Education Committee. And so one of the things that happened immediately was, as you heard from Tom Flanagan, instruction was shut down in all schools, and people had to scramble to figure out what to do. But as they were scrambling, they were making small mistakes here and there. And one of those mistakes had to do with special ed kids. And there were no plans for special ed kids. They went home to their parents without their wraparound services. And for a period of time, there was just encouragement via Zoom or the telephone to the parents, good luck with your child. In fact, there's a federal mandate that we have to provide compensatory services to special ed kids. So I've been working on that issue. The only other thing I'll mention along those lines is when we started to think about people going back to school, my committee spent a lot of time trying to figure out how could we spend federal dollars in the most efficient way to prevent transmission in schools. And
30 seconds, Bill.
Every expert we talked to said fixing the HVAC systems and the air circulation systems in school was the way to go. So we created a $6.5 million program run by Efficiency Vermont that's going to be working in schools with the goal of upgrading everybody who needs it by December 31st, which is when the money has to be spent. So 2 small examples of the work that we've been doing that will need to continue in August and in January. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Next on our roster is Tom Chittenden.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me and for hosting this. I just want to say I used to be a resident of Ward 4. I lived in Lakewood Estates back right after I graduated from college. And throughout college, high school, and even in the elementary years, I remember fondly going to the Ethan Allen Cinemas, the cheapest movie seats in town. So a big fan of, I wish they would have a movie theater out there again. It was always a treat to drive out to the New North End to see the movies at a reasonable price in the bowling alley there. So let me tell you a little bit about myself in the 3 minutes. I'm currently serving on the South Burlington City Council. I'm in my 3rd term. It's been an honor to serve in that role. I'm really proud of some things that have happened while I've been on that body, including the Regional Dispatch Initiative, which I know is hitting some rocks right now because of the pandemic, but it's the type of thing that I think we need to look at more so across the entire county and state. Finding ways to achieve better outcomes through greater coordination across our municipal town boundaries and looking at population centers to structure and guide us towards how we serve the public. I'm also proud of what we've done with our ordinances. We've done a lot of updating to them. I will say I've been looking to Burlington many times and how you structured your ordinances, and I'm really proud of how South Burlington has cleaned up our ordinances over the 5 years to have that professionalism that I've seen at the Queen City so many times. And I'm really excited about City Center. I also am currently the twice elected Faculty Senate President of the University of Vermont. Truly an honor of my career at UVM. The faculty at UVM have elected me to represent them in our body that stewards the academic mission for the great institution of the University of Vermont. So that has that consumes a lot of my time. I'm proud of things that have happened both before I've been the president. I've been in the Senate there, the Faculty Senate, for about 10 years. Really excited for some things that I've been very involved in helping the university accomplish. Also, just until this past January, I was the chair of the Green Mountain Transit Board. I've served on that body for about 5 years. I worked closely with Chapin Spencer and also the previous commissioners, Catherine Miles, and the current one, Meg Polite. So I'm really proud of things that have happened at GMT while I was on that body. The comprehensive system-wide analysis, the implementation of the new color lines, I hope have been received well. I'm not sure. I haven't spoken to enough people out in the New North End if they like the new system. I hope that you like the transit bus tracking app so that you can see where the bus is, and also the 2 new electric buses, which I think are the future. And I'm really excited that we're going to do more of that. But we now have 2 electric buses serving the region that Green Mountain Transit covers. Why I'm running, I don't know how much time I have. It's hard to do this, but I really hope you all reach out to me, email, check my website, call me. My phone number I'll put in the chat, but please reach out. Why I'm running, I decided to run because I didn't hear enough.
30 seconds, Thomas.
30 seconds, thank you. I decided to run because I just had too much free time and I figured I might as well consume it with something else. So no, I'm running because I want to see more coordination of our services across regional or population centers, like I spoke to earlier. I'm also concerned about the declining population in Vermont. I want to see more opportunities for people for new Vermonters, current Vermonters, and future Vermonters to live, work, thrive, and stay here in the state of Vermont. So I don't know if that's all the 3 minutes, but please.
That is 3 minutes. Thank you.
I'd love to hear from you.
Thank you, Tom. So next on the list is Dylan Giambattista.
You got it, Jeff. That was good pronunciation, so thank you for that.
I've been practicing all day.
All right, good. Howdy, everyone. I'm Dylan Giambattista. I'm a state representative out in Essex Junction, and I just want to say, I wish that we could all be together because as a state rep, certainly these types of community forums are those that I found are very impactful. They help guide our work, and I wish that we could do this in person. But please reach out if you want any information about me. I'll be sure to share my website and my email and my phone number, and I'm happy to chat anytime. So again, I'm Dylan Giambattista. I've served the last 4 years in the House of Representatives representing Essex Junction, which is a very fast-growing community. And I didn't stumble upon politics with any plan whatsoever. I actually am someone who comes from a pretty unusual background, and it's important I share it so you understand where I'm coming from when I approach the issues before us. You see, I grew up down in a rural part of the state in Rutland County. I had a great deal of challenges when I was a kid, and it led me to drop out of high school when I was 16. And in the years that followed, I worked a variety of odd jobs. I had a hard time. I struggled to find a way or a trade. And it was mentors at the Community College of Vermont who picked me up and turned my life around. And I tell that story because it's really important that you know I've worked in the trenches just about every low and minimum wage job there is. So when I go down to Montpelier, I'm thinking about what are the needs of all of us? What are the needs of our communities? And what are the challenges facing Vermonters? As a pretty young Vermonter, my wife and I, we live out in Essex. We've been fortunate to be able to buy a home. We both have jobs, and we've been able to serve our community in different public service roles. But that's not the case for everyone. We have multiple challenges mounting on us, not just the COVID challenges that have been highlighted here tonight, but systemic issues. We need reform. We're overdue, be it childcare, the cost of education, the cost of higher education, be it our systems of care, healthcare, mental health services, be it a broken justice system that currently has challenges with bias that is not treating all equally, be it other challenges like climate change that we know are going to impact us in the century ahead. This is a moment for new leaders who understand what's before us, who have the experience in Montpelier to hit the ground running, but also who understand the fabric of our communities. And like I said, I'm someone who's faced my challenges. I know what it's like to be down and out, and I'm focused on giving Vermonters a fair shot. So you can go to my website. It's www.vtdyllan.com. That's VT Dillon, like Bob Dylan. You can give me a call anytime. I'm at 802-734-8841. And I'm running because I want to make sure that we make progress now. COVID-19 is a transformational moment. We need bold leaders who are going to go down to Montpelier, bring your voices, and bring the change we need to really fix the problems we have. So I hope you'll join me. I hope you'll vote Dylan, and please reach out if I can be of any service. Thank you all for being here, and thanks to all the candidates. This is tough, and I'm really glad you showed up. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for joining us. Next on our list is June Heston.
Thank you very much for inviting all of us to participate. I really appreciate the opportunity. Like Dylan, I'm a native Vermonter. I grew up in rural Vermont in Graniteville on a farm, was raised by parents who were World War II veterans. They got married and met and got married in New Guinea during the war, moved back to Vermont and raised their family in the same home that my dad grew up in. I grew up in poverty, and my parents did the best they could to teach us the value of hard work and giving back to the community. My parents were very involved in the Democratic Party. My mom ran for House in 1970. My parents were also involved in the March of Dimes because they lost their oldest son at age 8 to polio. About 6 months before the vaccine came out. And so that was the foundation for my career, serving nonprofits and the people in communities that they support. I bring a passion for service to help children and families, small businesses, military members, and veterans. And we're living in a very complex world, and I believe that we need to challenge ourselves to have new thinking to solve the pressing problems that we're facing. Not only did I serve these children and families in the nonprofits, but I worked with children that sort of reflected my life. Working with children with the Make-A-Wish Foundation of Vermont, and helping them navigate through different healthcare concerns that they had was important. And then I learned about 3 years ago how to do that as well. When my husband was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer as a result of toxic exposure from the burn pits during his service in Afghanistan. And that experience led me to the State House in 2019 when our legislature was proposing burn pit legislation. And when that passed, I got involved with a group of
30 seconds, June.
Thank you, of veterans and nonprofits working on federal legislation in DC, working with members of Congress there. And so that was my catalyst, because I bring a perspective of challenges that represent the challenges that Vermonters are facing now with healthcare, education, and with just trying to make ends meet. So I'm asking for your support for State Senate.
Thank you very much. Okay, next up is Ginny Lyons.
Thank you, Jeff, and thanks all for being here. It's really a pleasure to see everyone again. It would be, as Dylan said, I think it would be really great to be together so we could mingle and talk. And unfortunately, that's not the case when we're still in the midst of a pandemic. I'd like to share with you a little bit about the work that I've been doing in the Senate and then ask for your support as I look for re-election. I am chair of the Health and Welfare Committee, and since March 13th, when we left the State House, and then beginning on March 17th, I worked with, as Phil has said, in Zoom meetings day and night on weekends. And the whole goal was to try to understand the effect of this pandemic on the business of healthcare. We've learned a great deal about the gaps in our system, as some have said, as we go forward with the Zoom meetings, and as we go forward and looking at what's going on with COVID-19, we completely understand the need for preparation. We understand the need to have a hazard mitigation plan that does include health. Currently, if you looked at our state hazard mitigation plan on March 12th, you would have found that healthcare was at the bottom of the list. We need to elevate that. When I go back in August, I'm going to be talking with my committee about trying to put a bill in that will move us forward with a better plan. We have learned how fragile many of our hospitals are. So many of our hospitals are currently in the red zone financially. So the money that's come to us from the federal government is important in stabilizing those businesses. It's also been important in stabilizing some of the other businesses that we all care about so much, especially childcare. We work extremely hard in our committee to ensure that there are childcare dollars available from the CARES funding that go to kids, go to families, and go to the businesses of childcare. I think one of the things that we did learn about childcare is how critically important it is to the economy. It's so important to people who are trying to get back to work. And now we understand that there needs to be some nexus between, a real nexus between business and childcare. I look forward to working on that in the next session.
Seconds, Ginny.
Oh my gosh. Well, you know what? There's a lot going on both in healthcare. There's a huge amount that we need to pay attention to with relationship to climate change, and including healthcare and climate change. There's a lot going on with expanded housing for folks who have not had housing in the past. There's a great deal of interest that we have in so many social service areas, mental health, and so on. I do look forward to talking with you further. So, give a call, give a shout out, send an email, and thank you all for your time this evening. And please consider supporting my reelection. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for joining us. Next up is Erhard Monkey. It's
actually Monka, but way worse has been done to it. So thanks, Jeff, and thanks for everyone's time. It's really great to see a lot of familiar faces. Huge shout out to our sitting lawmakers who have just done an amazing job with helping us through the pandemic. And I know, having followed along on Zoom and on YouTube, just how much work you guys have done over the last few months. So thank you for that. Again, my name is Erhard Monka. I've lived in Vermont for over 40 years now. I'm originally from an immigrant family. English was not my first language. I was born in Germany, and my family immigrated, left the economic devastation and the physical devastation of post-war Germany in the 50s. So I have really dedicated most of my both professional and my personal life to community service for the last 40 years. I served as city councilor back when Bernie was mayor and when Peter Clavell was mayor. I did a 1-year stint as president of the Burlington City Council, and we did a lot of amazing things back in the 80s that I think laid the groundwork for Burlington to be the thriving and inclusive community that it is today. Just one example that's kind of come up for me recently is around energy independence. We were the ones to say no to Hydro-Quebec many years ago and set Burlington Electric on a path of energy independence and energy efficiency. So I have been a State House advocate for affordable housing for the last 20 years. Before that, I've ran a couple of smaller nonprofits. I also worked for the city of Winooski. So my background and my experience is very broad. It ranges from a whole array of municipal issues to affordable housing, which of course touches so many different areas, whether it's mental health, whether it's healthcare, whether it's early childhood development, whether it's climate change and energy efficiency. And through my work in affordable housing, I've really become enmeshed in many different policy issues, which I think really prepare me to serve Chittenden County and serve Vermont in this unique and special time. A couple of other background pieces. I served on Governor Shumlin's advisory council on pathways from poverty. I also currently serve on the legislatively appointed advisory council on childhood poverty and strengthening families. So due to my housing work, my affordable housing work, have gotten involved in many different aspects of anti-poverty issues. And you see Linda Del Duca is on the call. Linda served with me on that council, and we did some good work there together. I am very proud and pleased to have been endorsed just recently by the Sierra Club. I plan to make environmental issues and climate change a major focus of my work at the State House. Obviously, economic justice issues and housing are going to be extremely important to me as well. I've worked on every iteration of minimum wage increase efforts that have come through the State House over the last 20 years.
We're over 3 minutes.
I guess I didn't hear the 30-second mark. Sorry. I'll just finish by saying we're in a unique time. We can't go backwards. We need to go forwards. We need systemic change. And I think I have the skill set and the knowledge to help achieve that. Thank you. And I ask for everybody's vote.
Thank you very much. Next up is, I think we have Lewis Myers.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, I'm Lewis Myers. I'm a physician, live in South Burlington. I've been a physician for over 27 years now, with a previous several years in criminal justice system working as a probation officer before going to medical school. And I'm running because I'm concerned about our healthcare system. And we are in the midst of the COVID crisis, of course, of which I think Vermont is handling with great, I think I'm proud of what we're doing here in Vermont with the COVID crisis. But prior to the COVID and afterwards, we have a healthcare system that's not working for Vermonters, or at least not working for many Vermonters. We have turned in a direction over the past 20 years of consolidation and monopoly of care at the University of Vermont. And that has led to markedly increased prices and costs for healthcare, which have shown up in your premiums. It has led to decreased choice and decreased access to care, as it has gutted the independent healthcare facilities around the state. And finally, I think it's led to a decrease in quality of care. I think it's led to depersonalization of care, where patients are really treated by algorithms. They're really treated as widgets that have to be fit into the University of Vermont's medical algorithms. I came into medicine, I should say, in a slightly different area. It was just beginning to change 25 years ago. I came of age in medicine in a time when there were more independent practices and independent hospitals, which were tied closer to their communities. which were more responsive to their patients, and which were not driven as much by financial bottom lines. I think that's why most physicians and other healthcare providers go into healthcare, which is to take care of patients. And too often we find ourselves taking care of our computers and not our patients. This has all come together in something called the One Care Plan, which was passed in the waning days of Governor Shumlin's tenure in 2016. It's basically a for-profit HMO, which is centered at the University of Vermont. It is centralized care in Vermont. It has cost hundreds of millions of dollars. And all of the data that we have thus far shows that it's failing. 30 seconds. Yeah, it's failing in terms of cost, quality, and access. I believe we can do better. And I think we can start by getting a physician in the state Senate. It has been 37 years since a physician served in our state Senate in Vermont. And I would like to bring my voice to the Senate.
Thank you, Louis. Next up is Chris Pearson.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having us. I noticed there's 38 people here, and so you're getting to experience something. There's 30 people in the Senate. So Ginny, Michael, and Philip and I, this is what we've been doing for the last 3.5 months as we try to wrestle with the biggest crisis certainly I've ever faced as a legislator. I'm finishing up my second term in the House, in the Senate. And before that, I served 5 terms in the House for part of Burlington's Old North End. My history is one of trying to stretch what Montpelier considers possible, put hard questions on the table. So what do I mean? Governor Shumlin, Shap Smith, Barack Obama, we're all pushing Vermont to go to a $10.10 minimum wage. That year, I put a $15 minimum wage bill on the table. We didn't get there, but within a few years, we pushed $15 to the desk of Governor Scott. He vetoed it. We're now getting to $12.55 next year. Thank you, by the way. It's due to Senator Sorokin, who did great work there. Seeing climate change not be a top priority, I was one of the co-founders and remain one of the co-chairs of the Legislative Climate Caucus. This is an informal group. It's now the biggest caucus we have in Montpelier. It's over 80 members, House and Senators, House members, senators, coming forward, lifting up climate as a priority, putting solutions on the table that recognize the economic impact of climate change. In many cases, the fact that communities of color are directly and most impacted by climate change, and trying to rectify the problem that Vermont, we lag New England in terms of our reduction of emission, and we lead New England in terms of our per capita emissions. We've got a lot of work to do. I'm proud to be 100% pro-choice through my entire legislative career. I'm 100% pro-climate. Just yesterday, I was endorsed by the Sierra Club, and a few weeks ago by the Vermont Conservation Voters. I'm 100% pro-labor. I've enjoyed support from labor and working folks. And I come to the Senate.
Seconds, Chris.
Thank you. I come sort of reluctantly. I run for office. I still am surprised to find myself running for office sometimes. But I look at state government and I think it does not reflect our communities. This is our institution. And I want to be a voice there that elevates working people and puts hard questions on the table. It's been a great honor to serve. I love learning things every day as one of your senators, and I'll be glad and proud to have your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Next up is Keisha Ram.
Keisha Ram. Keisha like Croatia, Ram like Romanian. But I appreciate the effort, Jeff. Thanks so much for having me. And it's great to see so many familiar faces and even some new faces. I just want to start by saying I'm really, really honored and proud to have the support of Representatives Carol Odie and Gino Sullivan and City Councilors Sarah Carpenter, Franklin Paulino, and Ollie Jane, who I think I might be on the second page. And I hope I didn't miss anybody, but it's great just to see so many awesome folks. And I really want to give a shout out to two of those folks in particular. Representative O'Sullivan mentioned kind of in passing, because she's been doing so much, the $5 million that she set aside for minority owned and women owned businesses. One of the projects that I did after grad school in 2018 was working with the Vermont Community Foundation and Carn Cross, one of our only venture capitalists in the state, to understand access to capital for new Americans, women, and others. And of all of the money, even lent by our institutions and credit unions that are supposed to really support underserved entrepreneurs, less than 2% has gone to people of color. And whereas women make up a third of entrepreneurs in the state, they only make up 9% of the revenues of small businesses in the state. So Jean's work is incredible, and I didn't give her enough credit early on. We were worried about, could people get the information in their language? Would this be another cash grab? But she's worked tirelessly for a lot of unheard folks in the legislature. And the other person that I want to uplift is Sarah Carpenter. You all are incredibly lucky to have her, and she's a great new addition to your delegation. And as many of you probably know, she spent decades in the State House before that with the Vermont Housing Finance Agency. And when I was on the Ways and Means Committee, I remember it was Sarah who came to me and said, we just think that you're a really reasonable and passionate voice on affordable housing and home ownership, especially as a 25, 26-year-old on the Ways and Means Committee. And in a time when we need economic development just coming out of the Great Recession, what could help people with economic development more than access to their first home? And so we worked on a first-time homebuyer tax credit. We piloted with about 75 first-time homebuyers, and we learned that their average income was $61,000 and their average age was about 30.
30 seconds.
And those are the exact folks we're trying to recruit. And so we were able to expand that program much more and, have so many more homeowners access their first home. Those are just two examples of the kinds of passions I have and the projects that I do. I think there are a lot of people who want to see me return to Montpelier in addition to some of those folks I mentioned. I'm supported by the Sierra Club, Emily's List, Rights and Democracy, Rachel's Action Network, People for American Way Foundation, and the Senate Majority Leader Becca Ballin, and a whole host of others. And I'd really like to go back there to advance social, economic, racial, and environmental justice and continue the work I started in the House. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for that. Next up is Erica Reddick.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm starting my own timer, Jeff, so thank you. I want to make sure I don't go over time. I have really enjoyed listening to folks talk about the things that they care about and that they're passionate about. I say all the time that we Vermonters probably care more than anybody else on earth about the environment and about our neighbors and about taking care of everyone. And I take great pride in that. And I've heard a lot of our elected officials talk about their record at the State House, and some of those things are good, and I admit that. But that record also has us at the 50th smallest economy in the country. That means we have the worst economy in the country, and we're 49th in business friendliness. And frankly, we're broke. So for those of you who are unaware, but I would imagine many of you who are in, very aware of labor, we have a $4.5 billion deficit for our pensions. That's billion with a B, $4.5 billion pension deficit. That means the state of Vermont has promised our teachers and our public sector workers, they've made a promise that they cannot keep. And so if you actually figure out what that equates to, that's $11,329 per individual between the ages of 18 and 66. I don't know about you, but I know I don't want to send an extra $11,000 to the state for that pension that they promised, that they haven't been good stewards of. What that tells me is that our legislators are not good stewards of our money. So as an accountant, as a person who has spent 20 years helping small businesses grow and thrive, I can tell you that they are not fiscally thoughtful about the decisions that we're making. So this is going to come down the pike, and this is going to be a really big problem for us. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm not okay with making promises that I have no intention of keeping and then behaving that way when I become a legislator. So, you know, when I hear things like, we want to provide savings through weatherization and things like that, that's great.
30 seconds, Erica.
Anyone talk about how they're going to pay for it? So when we have an economy that is almost wholly dependent on tourism, that has been completely shut down because of the COVID crisis, and now the revenue that our state would be getting is completely decimated, I'm really confused about where our legislators think the money's going to come from to pay for it. So again, we have a negative population growth.
3 minutes, Erica.
People are, thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Erica. So next up is Adam Roof. I see you there, Adam. You got
hello. I'm here. I had to grab a little glass of water here. Been yammering all day, so I need a little something to clear my throat. Thank you all for having me here this evening. I've been to the 4-7 NPA a bunch of times, and I look forward to coming again when we can all be together sometime, hopefully in the near future. You know, I've done the stump speech so many times. I think all the candidates are probably getting a little sick of hearing themselves say the same thing over and over. So I think I'm going to switch it up and do something a little bit different, because if you want to hear more about my priorities or learn about my track record of working on a whole bunch of different issues, you can head to the website or give me a call and we can talk directly one-on-one. I think instead what I'll do is spend just a couple of minutes here introducing myself, to tell you who I am if you don't know me, and talk just for a moment about why I'm running and what this campaign means to me, and a little bit about how we've run this campaign to be in line with that. I didn't start my life here in Vermont. I came here about a decade and a half ago to pursue my college degree, to be the first person in my family to earn a degree from higher education. And I did not know a single person in the state of Vermont. And over the last decade and a half, I've committed myself to building the relationships and establishing the trust through hard work and a passion for service that was instilled in me really by a lot of my mentors when I got here. But it required also a work ethic that I want to point to, and because I think that now more than ever, and I'm starting to get tired of using that phrase as well, but certainly right now, you know, we need people who have a deep-seated work ethic, and mine was instilled in me from a young age, coming up in a small business family who was not well off. I spent my time on residential construction job sites with my dad, and in the kitchen at our family restaurant, cleaning dishes with my mom. And that's really where I got this work ethic, and also through my parents, my upbringing through my parents, who never had the opportunity to pursue a higher education, you know, never have dreamed of running for public office or, you know, or any of these things that I've been able to do. Their life mission was to give me an opportunity that they never had, opportunities that they never had, and they've met that goal. And that's where my commitment to service comes from.
30 seconds.
Thanks. You know, I'm viciously, you know, enthusiastically committed to serving others, and that's where I come from, and that's what has, you know, helped my service on the city council. It's how I lead BTV Ignite, serving those who have historically been left behind in workforce development and economic development funding. And it's how we've ran our campaign, which has been committed to connecting with as many Vermonters as possible all across the county. We crossed our 10,000 call goal yesterday, and I want to shout out my campaign manager, Hannah King. It does take a team to run these campaigns, and that's how I plan to serve as your next state, one of your state senators, is to have you be involved as
Over 3 minutes, Adam.
And I thank you all again for having me, and reach out if you want to talk some more. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Thank you. Had to run out and grab my power cord. My computer's redlining, or I was going to lose you. Next up on the list is David Scher.
Yes, thank you all very much for having this forum. I really appreciate it. And it's good to see folks, even if it's through the screen. I grew up in Vermont, and I currently serve as an assistant attorney general. But my formative professional experience was really as a public defender. I worked as a public defender representing very low income individuals in incredibly difficult circumstances here in Chittenden County and actually all over the state. And it was really a lesson in the ways in which our system fails to work and fails to address the issues that end up washing up in the criminal system. Things like mental health challenges, substance use disorder, and other challenges that are often associated with poverty. We have a system that isn't working to solve them and isn't really working to keep us safe because it isn't addressing the underlying issues. Over the last few years, I've really been honored to be able to work as an assistant attorney general trying to address some of these issues. We've built programming to address people's needs. We've expanded restorative justice programming, which data shows is actually much more effective at reducing rates of reoffense. And I think that it's experience like this, experience working for the most vulnerable Vermonters, seeing the challenges that they face, the people who most need government to work for them. This is a kind of experience that I think we're going to need right now in the legislature, and that I think is going to be vitally important. I think it's also going to be important to have people there who have built successful programs to serve the people who need government the most. But one of the other things that I've really understood over the last number of years is we can't fix the ills of the criminal system from the inside. It is really just one aspect of a larger societal problem and failures of economic opportunity and economic justice. One of the ways in which Chittenden County in particular really has enormous challenges on the economic opportunity side of things is housing affordability. We have a very high percentage of all people in this county, not just renters, but renters and homeowners who are considered cost burdened according to common metrics. And that is essentially an exclusionary effect of our policies. We aren't a people who want to come here to work and live can't. People who want to move up and be able to own a home can't. And we are not doing ourselves a service, and we are not
serving 30 seconds.
People, thank you. Serving the people who need us the most when we aren't able to address those issues. And the final issue I'll mention with respect to this is we need to invest in recovery. We are going to be facing a challenging time. I think that now is not the time for austerity. It's going to be tempting to go that way, but that is the wrong way to go. We need to invest, and government needs to be a backstop. Government is all of us. Government is us deciding what our priorities are and how we're going to help and how we're going to create a just and fair society that has opportunity for everybody. And so that's why I'm running for state senate. I feel really passionately about those issues. And I hope that my background working with people who most need government to work for them will be valuable.
Thank you, David. So it looks like we are going to make our time deadline by the skin of our teeth, but unfortunately, we're not going to have any time for dialogue. So we'll have to get back to that at a future meeting. So
did we get every candidate?
No, we have one more to go. Michael Sirotkin is still on the list, and he was our final presenter.
Thank you very much. I'm going to try and be a little different here. I want to save 1 minute at the end to talk about an issue I think that's going to have long-lasting effect on the voters of Chittenden County that I'm very proud of. But let me just start off by saying that my politics, I think, are not necessarily Democratic, progressive, Republican, liberal, or what. I'd like to think of myself as a fighter for the underdog. Throughout my professional life, I started out working for Vermont Legal Aid, helping senior citizens get the benefits they deserved. And I continued along that track, helping consumers and injured Vermonters throughout my legal career get the compensation and benefits they deserved. And in the Senate, I've continued in that role. I think I like to deal with big issues, and I like to deal with issues that affect a lot of people who don't otherwise have a voice. And just as an aside, I feel like I'm picking up on the legacy of my late wife, Sally Fox, whose seat I took in 2014, the day after she died. On the front page of the Free Press was emblazoned the title Champion of the People. That's my politics. I want you folks to remember me for that in terms of this presentation. Just to give you a small list of things that I led the Senate on: minimum wage, paid family leave, Equifax breach. I'm very proud of taking on Apple and Amazon successfully in terms of their auto renewal policies that changed the policy nationwide for this country in terms of greater disclosure. I'm proud of taking on Comcast in terms of their proposal to abandon internet neutrality. So all my work up until this year has been consistent with my fighting for the underdog. Now, when we get into the COVID situation, I'm honored to be chair of the Economic Development and Housing Committee, and I've been very instrumental, in fact, led on expanding unemployment insurance, expanding workers' compensation benefits, and expanding greatly housing. And Senator Lyons and Senator Pearson both said how hard we've been working. Well, I've been working today and yesterday on the COVID issues, implementing the programs that we put in place, working through June 30th.
Michael, 30 seconds.
We just signed a letter to correct the problem that we found in the housing program. So the 1 minute, which is now 20 seconds that I wanted to talk about, I put a constitutional amendment in and legislation that passed last year that will break up the Chittenden Senate District. I found it appalling how little voters knew about the candidates when they went into the voting booth, when you have 13 candidates or 15 candidates. It's just unfair to the voters. And that in 2022, when we do district redistricting, as we do every 10 years, now Chittenden County will be broken up into smaller districts where the voters can be closer to their representatives. That's a very long-lasting effect that will be very meaningful for people in various regions of this of the county.
Over 3 minutes.
I'm very proud of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we've reached our time target. I want to thank you all for participating. I'm kind of overwhelmed with all the information I'm trying to absorb this evening. And so on behalf of the steering committee, I do want to say I look forward to some of you rejoining us in our next candidate forum. So the NPA will have another candidate forum before the general election. And so we will be back in touch with invitations for that. And I look forward to talking with you then. So thank you all very much and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Good night.
Thank you.